Because Clement is also talking about Donald Trump. This, after, of course, Donald Trump was named Person of the Year by Time magazine.
That's right. Time magazine says it picks the person who, for better or worse, has done the most to influence the events of the year. And Trump certainly has. His victory came as a huge surprise, and Trump has emerged as a hugely divisive figure, loved by some and hated by others.
Yeah, he hasn't even taken an office yet. I mean, he's not the first controversial leader, though, is he, to be named as the Person of the Year?
That's right. As The Independent says here in this article, if it was about being nice or good or holy, then Time's Person of the Year would year in, year out be a dull run of moral philosophers, religious leaders and blameless teachers. The British paper reminds us that far more controversial figures have been named Person of the Year in the past, including Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin.
OK, stay with US relations. I'm making no comment. Relations with China facing uncertainty as never before after Donald Trump spoke directly with the president of Taiwan, of course, last weekend, reversing decades of American foreign policy. But could things get better now with the appointment of a new ambassador to China?
Well, it will certainly help to soothe tensions, according to The Guardian. Take a look at this headline. China hails Trump's appointment of Terry Branstad as ambassador. In the article below, we read that Terry Branstad is a well-respected figure in China. He's known Chinese President Xi Jinping for decades and was described by a foreign ministry spokesperson as an old friend of the Chinese people. Now, some in the Chinese press are saying this won't be enough to reassure China. In an editorial, state-owned China Daily writes that Trump's words are not necessarily more bark than bite. China must prepare for the worst.
And Trump's also facing criticism at home, isn't he, over his appointment of the Oklahoma Attorney General Scott Pruitt to lead the Environment Protection Agency.
That's right. The Independent calls him an ally of the fossil fuel industry and a climate change denier, whose legal career include fighting transgender rights and overtime pay for working Americans. He is indeed a controversial choice. Donald Trump has announced that he wants to repeal the Paris Agreement, and he himself believes that climate change is a hoax invented by the Chinese.
OK. Clement, I've got a question for you. What do I have to do if I want to join Donald Trump's team?
Well, you'd be facing a long and messy hiring process, as the New York Times reports. First, you have to parade before the news media in the marble and bronze lobby of Trump Tower, which, according to Republican representative, feels like walking the red carpet in Hollywood. Then you have to be concise and straight to the point, as Donald Trump has no patience for meandering answers. The former presenter of the TV show The Apprentice is also said to make decisions based on gut instinct, not necessarily on the quality of your CV.
I think I could probably manage that. Let's move on to something a bit more serious now. Aleppo, Syrian army, helped by Russian Air Force, has almost entirely now recaptured the old city, leaving rebels now to plead for a humanitarian ceasefire.
That's right. Let's take a look at the photo on the front page of The Independent just to get a sense of the extent of destruction in the city of Aleppo. Many neighbourhoods have been reduced to rubble. Let's now take a look at another photo, this time from The Guardian, where we see residents of Aleppo fleeing the city. Rebels have called for a 5-day truce to allow for the evacuation of civilians. They've been joined by the US, Britain, Germany, France, Italy and Canada.
Now, previous efforts, of course, to implement a ceasefire there have been vetoed by Russia and China as well, drawing criticism from human rights groups.
That's right. Let's take a look at this cartoon from London-based paper Al Arabi. We see here members of the UN Security Council sitting around a table with a pool of blood in the middle. We see here the arm of someone who's desperately reaching out for help, but those around the table are looking away. One of them is actually putting his thumb down, probably to veto the ceasefire. The UN is indeed blamed for not doing enough to protect civilians in Aleppo, prompting fears of a deepening humanitarian crisis.
OK, I've got a second question now for Clement. I feel this one's more important than the last one, actually, Clement. I have to say, how would a giraffe wear a necktie?
Well, it sounds like a bit of a random question, but it's prompted a huge debate on social websites recently, with internet users wondering whether giraffes would go to work with a tie at the top or at the bottom of their long necks.
In the middle?
perhaps in the middle. Now it's a question that will perhaps remain unanswered, unfortunately. The Guardian reports that actually giraffes are under threat of silent extinction. The world's tallest animal has seen its population decline by 40% in 3 decades. Now, as one of the conservationists interviewed in the article says, it is time that we stick our neck out for the giraffe before it's too late.
Hopefully that will be a message that everybody will take on board. Clement, thank you very much. Clement with the papers.